15 individuals who we determined to have acted inappropriately are no longer with the company. Some were removed because of what we consider misconduct or incompetence. Others have been relieved because they simply didn't do enough. They didn't take responsibility. They didn't act with a sense of urgency.
That was General Motors CEO Mary Barra this morning explaining General Motors fired 15 employees today and said it will start a victims' compensation fund in the wake of what they called, their words, a brutally tough report on its ignition switch recall efforts. Joe White, Wall Street Journal's Joe White, has been following it, and he is with us to go over the details of this. Joe, glad to talk to you again. Tell me first, do we know which 15 employees were fired?
No, we don't know. We don't know the full list. They did. Ms. Barra did say, sort of indirectly, that two of the people fired are two engineers who were put on paid leave a few weeks ago. Ray DeGiorgio and Gary Altman, and they were both directly involved in the design of the ignition switch. Mr. DeGiorgio might be known to some of our viewers, or his name, as the gentleman whose name came up in congressional testimony, as the person apparently responsible for changing the design of this ignition switch sometime in 2006, but never recording that in GM's records with a different part number. And down the road, that made it very difficult for GM and its investigators to figure out what was going on with these cars and to figure out which cars needed to be recalled. But honestly, that oversight, which Ms. Barra once again said was unacceptable, is really just one piece of a much bigger picture of an organization that just was dysfunctional and didn't respond or diagnose properly a pretty serious safety problem.
Yeah, and Ms. Barr, in her presentation today, she said that there was no cover-up, but admitted that people did not do their jobs. And we want to play another little piece of that. You can listen in here.
Individuals failed to disclose critical pieces of information that could have fundamentally changed the lives of those impacted by the faulty ignition switch. If this information had been disclosed, and I believe this in my heart, the company would have dealt with this situation much differently and appropriately.
You know, Joe, it seems like the sort of classic corporate response to a problem like this, and it is a problem, is you try to get out ahead of it. GM, they clearly did not get out ahead of this. I mean, we have the Valukas report now. This has been going on for a while, but this is their response to it. Is this response going to be enough?
Well, the report by itself isn't enough. I think the test now, and pretty clearly, is the extent to which Mary Barra and the team that she has around her can demonstrate that they really have fixed the underlying problems of a bureaucracy that moves very slowly, that was slow to recognize a serious problem, slow to understand that the problem was serious, and slow to communicate up and down the line and side to side within what she's described and a lot of other people have described as the silos in this very complicated, very large organization. It's a task that her predecessors have fought with. She's now going to fight with it. So, you know, I think it's a start. Clearly, this is a shock to the system, a shock to a part of the GM system that maybe was somewhat insulated from the shock of the bankruptcy and the bailout. But the next couple of years are going to be the proof, as I think she more or less acknowledged today.
Right. Joe, they announced that they're going to start a victims' compensation fund, and right now the official number, at least that they're saying, of victims stands at 13. A lot of people think that is going to rise. How much might this cost General Motors?
Well, that remains to be seen, and it's a good question. I mean, the fundamental issue is how many people should be compensated. Kenneth Feinberg, who among other things set up 9/11 compensation funds, a compensation fund for the Gulf Coast oil spill and the Boston Marathon tragedy. He's going to devise, or GM has hired him to devise, a system for compensating people. Today, Dan Ammon, who's GM's president, who's been working with Mr. Feinberg on that, didn't rule out that there could be more than 13 deaths involved here. Certainly there are more injuries than that, but they are not saying specifically how big the universe of people who are going to be compensated might be. and how they're going to be able to manage that while still preserving protections that GM has against product liability claims that occurred before their 2009 bankruptcy. It could be a fairly complicated process going forward.
Wow. All right, Joe, excellent. Thank you very much.